everybody. It is so good to have you here with me. Imagine
if you have your vision as the car with the right team.
Imagine how quick that vision will come into the picture. Something that was taking 5 years takes 3 months. This morning is all about the leadership and influence. It's that time of the morning. A very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you out there. Thank you so much for tuning in on the Inside Show. We are busy with a political segment here, and we are busy speaking to independent candidates here around the up and coming elections. That's on Monday. Can you believe it? The 1st of November. Well, there's a button next to you there. Please, I would love you please to subscribe, and every single time you hit that bell when you see us, every time when we're on, you will know that we are online. This morning, I've got wonderful ladies here. I'm surrounded by politicians this morning. Ladies, strong women, young women in the house here, and they are here to state their case. They are standing as independent candidates in their specific areas. I'm going to give each and every one of them an opportunity to introduce themselves, and also for 2 minutes about why they're standing and why we should believe in them. And from the go, let's start this program, and let's hear from the independents exactly how they feel. I think I'm gonna start with Nkele. Galedzana here this morning. She will just share a little about why she's standing and why we should believe in an independent, and specifically the zone and area that you are standing for.
Nkele Galedzana, I'm from Alexandra, Watt 75. The reason we should believe in independent candidates is because we are part of the community. We know the struggle and we know the solutions of those struggles. Politicians have been coming to us for 27 years. You know, I like to say that as independent candidates, we're not politicians. We're community leaders. We're activists who believe in the truth and who are fighting for the truth. So that is why people need to step up and say, we want our people to be the ones who are on the forefront, rather than having politicians who don't know what is happening on the ground leading us.
Well, that's a mouthful there. I would like to know later on, when your party grows bigger, you're going to stand, will you be called a politician later? Maybe you start out as an activist and later you turn into a politician. For what it may. Let's hear from Fleur here this morning. Just an introduction from your side. Why should your ward believe in you?
Good morning. My name is Fleur Honeywill, and I'm the independent candidate for Ward 118. I've been living in the ward for 5 years, and since I came to live in the ward, I've been a community activist, but I have noticed the slow decline of service delivery and by law enforcement in the ward, as well as major infrastructural problems such as burst water pipes and the fact that we have a lot of power outages. So I decided that the current ward candidate, he's not really doing much, he's not delivering much in the way of service. So I thought I would stand as an independent to get things done and to be a person that the residents vote for as opposed to a party.
Well, that is it. So if I may ask, it just most probably back to you before I introduce our next guest here. Which political party were you involved with?
The ANC.
And which political party were you involved with previously?
None.
My goodness. Who's running your area now? Which political party?
It's a DA stronghold.
It's a DA stronghold. Your area is the ANC stronghold.
Yes.
Well, let's hear this morning from Nongo. Let's hear what she's got on her mind there.
Nongo Solo again from Ward 82 Takane Ekuruleni. I think we're here to send a message that people haven't been noticing for quite some time, that local government elections have got nothing to do with political parties, but everything to do with community activism. So we're offering direct democracy, direct voting, and we are saying to them, this is real democracy where you have been deceived about the definition of democracy, where you are voting for a party, then it's the party that nominates the candidate for you, which was an illusion. But we are bringing the real democracy to you. But Nongo is currently contesting as an independent, not because she hasn't been active in the community, but she has been so active, so much that we believe that activism outside politics has some kind of limitation. But all we want to do now is to amplify the work that we have been doing in the community. And one of the particular things that we have been doing is agriculture in the society. And we want to amplify it in each and every VD. The second will be education, which is tutorials. We have a school that we started. We are tutoring young people about math, English, leadership skills, academic skills. And all we want to do is to amplify the work that we have been doing. But most importantly is to say that direct voting then gives an opportunity of direct accountability, where the society now has an opportunity to ensure that their councillors are directly accountable to them instead of the structures of political parties. And the joy about independent candidates is that they remain to enjoy their autonomy, and they don't take mandate or directive from political branches and political parties, but directly from the society. And from
Thank you so much. That was really a mouthful. Let's get into the questions here this morning. So what is the journey of an independent candidate, if I may ask? There's more than 200 political parties right across South Africa. How did you get to that point? What was your journey?
You know what? I have full 10 years in the community, doing community work within Alexandra in itself. So my journey to get to where I am as an independent is that I was within a political party trying to show them that it is not about us, it is about the community, you know. Yes, we can sit in meetings and engage about what will happen, and engage about tenders, and engage about things that don't matter on the ground. But at the end of the day, it affects the people who are on the ground itself, you know, because we don't come back and implement. So I'm that kind of person who loves implementation and change within society. As I said, I've lived in Alexandra since I was born. So I've got 26 years in Alexandra, seeing the things that are happening within Alexandra. There are people that I went to school with who are currently drug addicts, based on the fact that our very same politicians are not coming to the ground and saying, yes, you don't want to go to school because based on the fact that theoretically you're not good. Here are your skills development programs. This is what you're supposed to do. They're not coming to do that, but instead they're coming to say, there's a tender, we're putting our people there who are able to do those skills. Instead of coming to educate those people to say, this is how you do a certain skill and then employ that person. So my journey, it's been a tough one, you know.
Yeah. No. Yesterday you had a president in your community again, and it seems like the big political parties, they're gunning Alexandra right at this point in time. What's your take about them that's dawning so strongly on? Are you not scared that they're going to overpower you? They've got all the muscle and the energy, the media behind them. They come with a massive cloud. And what happened yesterday? Was there some promises made again? As we know, all last week, all whole multimedia platforms around the promises the president has made. So what did he say about those promises yesterday?
You know what? I'm not in fear. Not in fear at all. You know, I'm facing it game on. Because the people are suffering at the end of the day. We live with those people. As I said, I grew up with most of them who are actually drug addicts. That's one thing that we're dealing with that is huge in Alexandra. So the president came yesterday, and prior that, the mayor had come. And in the very same occurrence where he came there, he dealt with, you know, those good issues. He was just brushing people off. And I was called into a family where there's a child who's disabled, who is carried by the mother each and every time from the transport to their house, which is just a shack, a small shack. And the reason why that lady carries the child is because the wheelchair cannot maneuver within those passages. So I mean, like, there's a mayor there, but he failed to deal with such an issue. And the president again came to Alexandra. No, he didn't promise us anything, because he knows that once he starts those promises, he won't be getting that backup from the people. The community is saying enough is enough. 2019, you said 1 million houses. Where are those houses? People are still living in shacks where rats are coming within their households. You know, others are being bitten by the very same shack, the very same rats. We're living in a situation that is quite bad for 27 years. And then you come and want to come and say, don't worry, we'll change the situation. You can't do that. 6 days before elections. No, we're not going to accept that at all.
Yeah, 200 parties to choose from. Fleur, what's your take on it?
Yes, well, my journey is one very much rooted in the suburbs and working class, middle class suburbs. My ward extends from, in Cleveland and in Malvern, there are informal settlements and there are working class families, all the way through to Bruma and Linksfield Ridge where there is wealth. But our problems are all the same. I've been living in the suburb for 5 years, and in that time, the whole of the ward has slowly started to deteriorate. And as happens in the suburbs, there are a lot of people who complain, but they don't do anything. So one example is we have a big problem with illegal building. And we're having people purchasing a house, these are very old houses, and then converting them into multiple dwellings. And from that we have a problem where we have illegal dumping, we have illegal businesses making excessive noise over the weekends, there's no bylaw enforcement. So I decided that since the councillors, both the PR and the ward councillor, was squabbling with the Residents Association, that I would work with all of the councillors, the PR councillor and the ward councillor, to compile a list of illegal building and to go directly to council, talk to town planning, talk to building development management, just to get things done. And then we were all whining about this shothole borer beetle, and it's destroying our trees. Our trees are our pride and our joy. And everyone was complaining, but nobody was doing anything. So for the last 2 years, I've been very, very active in the community, meeting up with other people who are active in the community, getting things done. So when the opportunity came to actually then get ready to vote, I asked myself, who do I vote for? Who, as a person who's living in a suburb, who do I vote for? And I just did not see a party that could resonate with me in any way.
I'm confused. I tell you why I'm confused.
Why?
Because the DA was running, and they boast most of the time that they run the party well, they run the communities well, they run their wards well. And here you are as an independent within a DA ward. How is it possible for you not to find pleasure within what DA serves? Was there huge differences then?
Yes, that's a very good question, because actually our ward is on Ward 118 borders Bedford View, which is part of Ekuleni. And there is a DA councillor, her name is Jill Humphreys, and she is extremely active. And she fights for service delivery, even though the issues in Bedford View are the same as the service issues in Kensington and Malvern. In my ward, the DA councillor is just someone who's collecting his salary. He has been quite effective in taking people who are very active in the community and then hitching his trailer onto their vehicle and then just sitting back and not doing anything. He doesn't live in the ward. He's not actively moving around the ward. People are angry. They want to meet with him because we have major issues in our ward. And he will ignore Malvern because Malvern is seen as a black suburb, and so therefore it's EFF or it's ANC, so he will try to focus on the more middle class sections of the ward. But even those people were getting angry. He's not accessible, he's not fighting for their issues, he's just kind of taking his paycheck.
So I guess that's the reason why independents are so appealing, is that so? Well, let's hear from Solo there on the other side. What's your take about the not joining a party? Why you mentioned Offset earlier that you were not part of any party, yes, and you are standing as an independent activist right there in your community. So what's your take about parties then, from where you stand?
So yes, I did participate in Ahang SA at some point. I used to work with Dr. Mampela Rampela when it was still a citizens movement. Yeah. Then it moved to Ahang SA. But to be honest, quite frankly, none of these political parties have a platform for young people. The voices of young people are suppressed, they're modified, they're undermined. And In some stances, the platform doesn't exist completely. Secondly, none of these political parties speak of education as the fundamental liberator. And as long as you don't speak of education as the fundamental liberator, you will not even enjoy economic freedom. So it becomes illusional. So it's important, and that is why you'll give people land. Without education, they don't understand the value of land. So education becomes the fundamental liberator. And when we speak of education, we're not speaking of schooling system. We're not speaking of a pen and a paper, but we're speaking of education and its broad level. For example, I'll make an example. How do you get educated? Use different forms. There's internet, there's library, there's schools, there are incubation centers. There's a lot of ways to access education. And in Ward 82, as I speak, there's no Wi-Fi. There's no access to Wi-Fi. In Ward 82, as I speak, there's no library. And the only library that exists there, it opens at 9 a.m. When kids are going to school. It closes at 4 when kids are coming back. So the question is, it's open for who? On weekends, it doesn't open at all. So for students who want to come back on weekend and do their research, you can't do that.
Valid.
The schools in my ward do not have proper infrastructure. So there's no conducive environment for teaching and learning. And schools are overpopulated. So if you speak of overpopulation and you want to solve that problem, the government is bringing in mobile classes that are hot when it's hot, cold when it's cold. They are metal, so you can't even put electricity because of the metallic thing, which then electrocutes kids, like in Galedzana Secondary, where a kid was electrocuted because of the electricity that was installed, because you can't do that. So again, you are saying the teaching and the learning should not be conducive, but also schools don't even have simple things like school halls. They don't have sport facilities for sport and recreation. All the schools in public schools have what we call a feeding scheme, but yet they don't have food gardens. So they're eating what they don't produce. They're not even teaching kids on how to eat what they're producing. So it's a problem when you don't speak of education as the fundamental liberator. Worse, when you don't have incubation centers for skills in your society, then you are producing generation that is still dependent. When we know that our education is not quality, it does not make you employable. So for 13 years, you're spending your time in school, yet you don't become employable. You still don't have a skill. You don't even have a simple thing like a driver's license. So it becomes a crisis and a vicious circle. And that is why then you have young people who constantly will be in the queues for the 350 grants.
So what you say, there's a disconnect, a complete disconnect from the bigger parties, from where you stand. There's two platforms that you motivate strongly here this morning. The one platform is they are disconnected with the community, and the other one, they are completely disconnected with the young people.
Completely disconnected with the community, disconnected with young people, and disconnected with real solutions.
Rather interesting. Well, a warm welcome back to you, and this is the Inside Show. I've got wonderful ladies on the show here who stand as activists. They correct me here. They say they're not politicians, they are activists. So with no manifesto, ladies, no campaign team, no big budget, no almost zero multimedia coverage, how do you survive as an independent? Will you go for it?
Yeah. Me personally, I survive with community members. Young people form part of the team. I've got a media team that consists of DJs within the location itself. I've got a media team that has your designers. So these are young people who have the skill but don't have the platform. So they said, you know what, if you're gunning for that, that's what we're also gunning for, because we want change within Ward 75. We want change within Alexandra in itself. You know, Alexandra is the first township, but look at it. It is something that, you know what, one cannot say, I live there. You can't proudly speak to people and say, I come from Alexandra. That's the shame that young people are now living with.
And Alexandra is just on the doorstep of Santon. Hey, Santon.
You know what? You see how it is.
Yeah.
It's a big crisis, a big crisis. So community members have had my back since till today. And personally, also myself, I've seen that we don't need big budgets at all.
So you talk to me about that. How do you handle posters and printing and stuff like that? I know you've got your graphic designers in the community. You've got your DJs that's helping you on different platforms. But somebody need to go to a printer and put some some posters on the polls. How do you handle that?
Lucky enough, you know what, I'm employed, so I work for the community.
Okay.
So my income works for the campaign.
Okay.
Because I believe so much in what I'm doing.
You are self-supported.
Yes.
You just see to your own budget.
Yeah. And the reason,
That's so admirable for an independent, and that makes you so strong in your views, because you are not in somebody's pocket, isn't that so?
yeah, and that's the aim itself. You know, we don't want to find ourselves being captured by certain individuals who have their certain, you know, agendas, that see that indeed you have that thing in you that will be able to fight, but then they know what they want after that.
So how do you handle that, Fleur? How do you handle the fact that you don't have a budget and you don't have big pockets and you are fighting against established political parties and you really have zero media coverage? How do you handle that?
I think my situation is quite a good one, so I'm very humbled by Nkele's situation. From my community, I was persuaded by a number of individuals to stand as independent, and my condition for doing so was that I was not going to fund my own campaign. So I've had donors from the community who believe in myself as a person that would deliver, and also believes that we need to have an independent candidate to bring about change in a democratic society as our democracy is maturing. So because I also have a corporate background and I also am an entrepreneur, I've been able to mobilize in a very short space of time the resources to have 250 posters, 5,000 flyers, a whole team of volunteers. I've been able to work with the community on social media, boosting Facebook. So I have been well resourced, which I think is a very good example. It's a different type of example, but still the example of how independents in a very short space of time have been able to mobilize resources and bring them to bear to market ourselves and to prove that if we can organize a campaign in such a short space of time, we can organize to have improved service delivery in the ward. So for me, I don't also believe in a manifesto. What is a manifesto? It's just a page of empty promises. I have a plan of action. I have a website which I myself designed and developed, and I have a clear plan of action for my Ward 118. It's very specific to my ward because I'm standing as the candidate for that ward. So I've used that, where the political parties, not one of them has got a clear plan of action for the ward. They are making these big, bold statements. They use it. I mean, someone asked me, is Cyril Ramaphosa standing as the ward candidate for Ward 118? Because is Herman Mashaba standing as the candidate for Ward 118? Because why are their faces on the poster? Then the other face on the poster is the DA. I mean, nobody wants to see John Steenhuisen's face in our ward, let alone they say to me, oh, is that what the ward councillor looks like? When they see his face on the poster.
My word. John Steenhuisen, just the other day, it seems like he's not doing so well as a person on posters. But people are more fond about Zille, isn't it? So I'm surprised. It seems that they say yesterday a political analyst of one of the professors of the Free State mentioned something very interesting. He said that he doesn't have that charisma for public. It's like somehow he's falling short. He's trying. And his dancing skills are not that good. Did you see how he danced? I'm just saying. What's your take on the mere fact that you have to supply and support yourself? How do you do that?
I think what she's saying is very interesting. Just before I jump into that, the fact that what's exciting about these elections, that for once, the citizens and the community members are going to the ballot paper and they will be voting for a face that they have been seeing on the posters. And the funny part is all these political parties are putting their leaders on the posters, yet on the ballot paper, it's their logos that are existing. So the question is, what are they hiding so much that they can't put the faces of their candidates? But to go back to your question, I'm relating to what she's saying. Community members had approached us to say, please contest these elections, and not just with their own mouth, but they have putting their skills into the campaign. They have been putting their time into their campaign. They've been putting their resources, like their own cars and even their money, from as small as 50 rand to 1,000 rands to 10,000 rands. And I love the point she's making, the fact that as independent candidate, we are able to mobilize these resources for a campaign. How much more will we be able to mobilize resources for service delivery? And this is the first lesson that the community should get from this campaign. And so we also wish to thank the media to jump into space of also covering independent candidates. Ours is to stay humble. Ours is to do what we can do best. Ours is to be obedient and diligent to the work that we need to do in our communities. And from there on, I mean, it's evident that we have been working in the community. All we need to do now is to amplify everything that we've been doing. But also we are aware that the opposition parties are abusing their resources by paying individuals money to be campaigning or to vote for them, but also by taking advantage of the most vulnerable community members who are drug intakers now. They give them 30 rand so that they continue to feed their habits and their addiction so that they vote for them, which is unethical. It's absurd, in fact. But we are saying that as long as we stick to our lane, we remain focused, we continue to do what we do on a daily basis, and all we are hoping for and we are canvassing for is that the community doesn't panic, the community doesn't even entertain the propaganda that independent candidates are not so useful. What they should understand that for the first time they would be voting for a human being on one ballot paper, and on the second ballot paper they can vote for a political logo. At the end of the day, independent candidate will then unite in the council to execute furthermore.
Do you think there's a complete shift within the political arena with the new independents? I don't know if my figures are right, but is there anyone around the table who knows exactly how many independents are standing at this point in time? Most probably just in Gauteng.
More than 1,000 independents in total in terms of 2021 local elections. In fact, independent candidates have doubled from the previous elections, which is a total shift on its own. If they have doubled now, it gives you a reflection of what will happen in 2024. And I think we need to also canvass the community to ensure that they support the bill that is sitting in Parliament, where we won the court case that independent candidates should continue to be independent candidates, even for provincial and national elections. And I think that bill should actually be implemented.
If it comes to political ideas and services, there's as an independent, you're going to stand alone somewhere surrounded by huge political parties. The promises that you make right now on the floor, how do you foresee fulfilling that promises?
Firstly, you know what? That's why when you go and come fast to the people, you need to make sure first ballot paper, it's yourself. Second ballot paper, it's someone who won't stand in front of you when you're trying to do something. For an example, in Joburg, we know very well that in 2016 something happened, and Herman Mashaba came in Joburg, and change was done. Herman Mashaba did not say that you come from the ANC, you come from this political party, but he understood that I am a mayor. Therefore, as a mayor, I need to advocate for the people. That's why we saw what happened in Joburg. And then came the problematic ones. When they came in, they changed that. So everything was aligned to the ANC. So now, as independent candidates in Joburg, we need to then ensure that second ballot paper, therefore, someone who comes in as mayor, comes in and understands that as a mayor you become independent. You don't become a mayor of a certain political party. That stops immediately once we come into council. And you say, yes, so help me God, I will then advocate for the people. It stops there.
So what are you going to do if majority ANC takes Gauteng, right? Let's say they get with alliances the 51 plus. And here you are, you were campaigning within Alexandra. They didn't do anything the last 5 years or 3 years now. What are you going to do about that? Because you're going to look bad as an independent in the light of your community. How do you plan to bridge that?
Okay. Lucky enough, you know what? I'm a very opinionated person who's able to persuade people. So I'm definitely going to persuade certain councillors within the ANC in itself, if they win in majority, to say you can see what is happening. As a young person, you need to understand that History leaves no blank page. If you want to dent your image by saying this is right where else you know it's wrong, you are going to have a problem in future. And another thing I'm going to do is that a few months back in May, there were 17 shacks that burned within the ward. I rebuilt those shacks, made them bricked homes for those 17 families. So that was done based on the fact with donors that come outside of Alexandra who are willing to bring change within Alexandra in itself. I'm going to utilize those ventures. I'm going to utilize those people to make change within Alexandra if council does not work.
So what you say, you're going to make noise inside?
Yes.
For one reason. So how do you plan to overcome that?
I think that's a good question. And to answer it, I went and had a look at what are the actual roles of a ward councillor, because your duties are specific to your ward. So in reality, we can attempt to influence service delivery. We can attempt to ensure that there's more enforcement of the bylaws. We can try to get Joburg Water, City Power, Joburg Road Agency to come into your ward and to start to address the infrastructural problems. But we don't influence policy. But what we can do is we can set up a proper plan of action to address improvement of service delivery. You can be accessible to your constituents. You can go to council with them to help them address things like their billing issues. That is what the residents want and expect from a ward councillor. When it comes to policy issues, then choose, when you vote for your PR councillor, choose the party that you feel has presented a comprehensive action plan for your metropolitan area. So in our case, it would be for the city of Johannesburg. Then also remember that council has a number of subcommittees, and on those subcommittees, you as a ward councillor will have a seat. And so there you must go with your questions prepared, and you must go and you must report on the issues in your community. You also have a system whereby there's a petition system. The ward councillors never tell you about this, that as an individual resident, you can petition council.
Why are you getting so excited?
No,
She's hitting the nail here.
Exactly.
Let me hear about the petition system. I like that. I like that.
So as an individual, or as a ratepayers association, or as a community-based organization, or even a civic, you can petition the council. You can go there with your own signature or the signature of the community or the mandate, and you can go and take your issues all the way to the relevant subcommittee at council. And even if your ward candidate, your ward councillor is not performing, you can go and you can petition even the speaker of the council, who is the one that has most of the power. So regardless of who is controlling the city, you still have a voice. You have to take your issues to council. That is your mandate. You have to report back to your constituents on what is happening in council with regard to service delivery. But even then, independent of you as a ward councillor, which you can facilitate and enable community activists to also go and petition council. So I see it as the most healthy expression of democracy that we've ever had in this country, where the voice of the community can be taken directly to council. And you don't need to form a coalition. You just have to prioritize your ward. And then make sure, because I can assure you that those independents that are elected are going to be approached by whichever party gets that slither.
Yeah. If you show up in council, they're gonna come for you.
They're gonna come for you.
Yeah.
They're either gonna come and try to buy your face,
Yeah.
or they're gonna come and try to undermine you. And so, because we are community activists, you have that, you already know.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are campaigning, I mean, we are, as independents, we are under attack already. Mm-hmm. In my ward, the DA is attacking me. They're like little trolls. You know, and in Nkele's ward, I'm sure the ANC is attacking you. I'm sure the ANC is attacking you as well. But if we can overcome that, imagine how strong we are going to be.
It seems like the independence, you are a force out there. I must just say, Sona, you go.
Yes, no, like she covered a lot. I had the same question on ENCA, and those are the things we were touching on, because it's important that we do these kinds of research and understand our role as councillors when we get there. We are independent now. After elections, we are councillors. And we are equally so to any other councillor. No one is under another councillor and the other one is bigger than the other. We are just all councillors. So it's important. However, what is much more interesting as independent candidates is that we go back to our communities and then we need to establish our ward committee. That's the very interesting part. Now, infiltration starts there. It doesn't start at the council chamber, where you now have to elect your ward committee. Then now people from organizations will start mobilizing to ensure that they infiltrate your ward committee, so that they then sabotage your plan of action that you're speaking about. So it's important that you exercise democracy in a better way this time around. You don't just elect by their hands. You allow the community to give you the 10 people that they give you, and you get 10 more people, and you do your own interviews, you do your own evaluation of ethics and morals and passion, and you check credibility and what they have been into. I think that is very important at the word go. But also, councillors don't vote a lot in council chamber because we are on local government elections. We'll be voting for our mayor, we'll be voting for a few things, but most importantly, you stay focused, what she's saying. There is what we call committees. You remain focused as a ward councillor. There are parties, I'll make an example, at national level, there are parties in parliament that have been there for 5 years, and all they have been making noise about is recalling a president. 5 years later, they've done nothing. Then you have small parties who remained focused. Typical example, who said Dacha should be legalized. And Dacha is legalized because they got in there and they had a focus plan. So as an independent candidate, as a ward councillor, you must also have a focus plan. But also an interesting part is, if we're able to mobilize resources during our campaign, you continue to mobilize resources even when you're in council, because you have that influence with businesses around your ward. And those businesses must ensure that they give back to the community via CSIR, via skills development, and via 30% of development within the community. So you must ensure that you hold them accountable to develop back the community. But also, all councillors in the council, they have a budget, regardless of where you're coming from. And you must utilize it to ensure that you develop your service delivery into your community. There are no policies, there are bylaws. So voter education is important also.
So Nkele, tell me, if you look at, you get into council, right? Are you going to fight just for your ward, or are you going to stand for the whole entire municipal area for where you are?
I'm going to stand for the entire Alexandra. I speak like that because I'm the first youngest independent within Alexandra to stand and say...
Really?
Yes.
How many independents are there in Alexandra?
We have 2.
All right.
But he's beyond the youth age. So I am the first one who's very young.
I must just say, I can just compliment you guys as youngsters to step out there, for your tenacity and your zeal as young people to stand up there and say, we will make a difference there. So you say you're going to stand not just for your ward, you're going to stand for the full of Alexandra.
Yes, most definitely. Because I can't just only change my ward and then walk around Alexandra and I see other wards having a problem. And that is why also after elections, whichever councillors come within the council with the other wards that are surrounding, I'll be able to go to them and engage with them to say, this is how we do things. Let's try by all means so that we fix Alexandra as a whole. Because at the end of the day, this is our township. This is where we live. This is where we grew up, you know. We can't just change our particular wards. We've been having this problem in Alexandra because right now, as it stands, if you go to Alexandra and ask them who's the best councillor, they'll tell you of a councillor who's in one ward. And that thing is wrong because he will develop his ward. What then about the next ward? We need to hold each other accountable. We need to unite so that we're able to change the entire country. I mean, we can't just focus on just an individual thing. Look at the end goal. The end goal is that we change the entire country. So you first start in the area that you're within. Yes, we're independent, but we must be independent based on the fact that we're independent within the area itself. Motivate people, inspire young people to say, in the 5 years coming now, they must step up and say, we also want to register and become independent candidates. Because if I focus on Ward 75, I won't inspire other wards to change.
How many people do you find in the broader Alexander, completely, except your ward?
Sure. We're looking at about like 1 million.
Just in Alexandra?
Yeah.
Doesn't look that big from a distance, eh?
That's the sad thing. It doesn't look that big from a distance, but when you come within Alexandra, we've got people who are living in such small houses. Houses where, as a leader, you were supposed to come, you're promising us houses, yes, break down the shacks and have your flats that you could then get people who were having bachelor houses that you could occupy them in there. That's how you have the space. That's how you have your recreational, facilities. Because the reason why we don't have those recreational facilities within Alexandra is that we don't have space at all. There's a lot of people who are occupying those spaces. So that's why our children also end up doing the wrongful things within Alexandra. Hence, I'm saying that I can't just change only my ward. I need to focus on the entire Alexandra and speak on behalf of the entire Alexandra.
And how big is your ward?
My ward is 6 VDs. And we're looking at plus minus 17,000 voters. In majority, I made sure that in registration, it's young people.
Mm-hmm.
I motivated them to say, we need the change, and you must step up for that change.
So in order for you to make it into the municipality, as a councillor, how many votes do you need?
Now I need, let's say, 10,000.
10,000 votes.
That's what I'm looking at.
And you think it's possible?
It's very much possible.
Yeah. Your take on that question?
Well, my answer is that my ward 118 is also a very big ward. There are 17,800 registered voters. But the area that is the most important, that has been ignored for 10 years, is Malvern. And Malvern is a very interesting suburb. It used to be an old type of working class suburb. But now there are a lot of people who own the property there but are neglected in terms of service delivery, even though they also pay their rates and taxes. And there are a lot of young people that live in the ward that are youth. They've matriculated or graduated and they are experiencing very high unemployment. So you can't just focus on service delivery and bylaw enforcement and infrastructural problems in Ward 118. You also have to address the fact that there's now high unemployment, especially amongst the youth. And we have a lot of talented people. Not only are they have got qualifications, but there are artists, there are musicians, there are designers, and they are sitting there. Nobody is hearing their voice. Nobody is arranging to look at and find ways of stimulating the ability for these people to make a living. Not to get a job, because there are no jobs, but to make a living, to upgrade the area, to ensure that, for example, in the recent riots or looting that happened in July, some of that sparked up in Denver and parts of Malvern. And in 2019, there was a lot of unrest and looting, and that affected Malvern directly. So those people are still sitting there feeling disenfranchised, feeling ignored. So my priority in the next 5 years is to focus on Ward 118 and to ensure that I am the voice of Ward 118, and the comments are always the youth is ignored. They are ignored. And especially in that portion, which represents roughly about half of the registered voters. So that will be my focus. My ward will come first and the priorities of the ward.
I must just say, me bumping into so many young people, they are so demoralized. They don't want to go and vote out there. But it's so encouraging to have youngsters on the set here today Really, really encouraging. Solo, what is your view around when you in council? Will you speak on behalf of the broader community or just your ward?
You are mandated by your ward to represent your ward, and it's important that you do exactly that. You must have a ward committee, but above all, you must also have area committee. As a councillor,
How do you plan to work the ward community?
so I have 9 VDs in total. It's also a vast ward. It's the biggest ward in KwaZaduza. Ward 82 is the biggest ward in KwaZaduza, with a VD called Nkele that has also been neglected for a very long time. And these are simple reasons why it happens. Because you are a councillor, you belong in one ward, and if your entire ward committee is not spreaded in each and every area, then it will automatically happen that you will forget about another VD. So the first step is to ensure that your ward committee consists of every VD representation, but also it consists of specialization. So it means that you must also have a person that will speak of sport, another should focus on business, another one should focus on social development. So you ensure that you have those different departments. So that's the most important thing. And then once you are able to do that, then you'll be able to develop and restore and rebuild your ward in that specific place. But like I said, Nkele is an area that consists of only shacks. It does not have a school. It does not have a hospital, a clinic, creche, nothing whatsoever. It has been neglected. And worst of all, it's under the rail of a train station. So they don't have even access to electricity. There's no toilets there, and it's been there for over 20 years, and it has been ignored. So it's important to also address those issues. But the entire ward has similar issues, like lack of sport infrastructure. But what is great about my ward is that there is so much land available in my ward that needs to be utilized in many different ways. One, we should ensure that as much as we build RDP houses, we also have young people who are educated in a professional space that we don't want to leave. We don't want them to leave the township. We want them to continue to inspire others. So we must give them land so that they build their own houses. Secondly, we need to use land for sports and recreation so that we reduce the drug intake. We reduce the idling of young people. So they begin to participate in sports and recreation. But it's important that when we speak of recreation as facilities, we don't do what the ANC is doing. For example, we have a park called Kalkotlepo Park in Tsakane in Ward 82. That park, almost in every area, you have a park that has sport facilities. At the same time, the park has a braai stand where people can chill and drink and smoke. At the same time, that park has swings. So kids are playing, watching old people drinking and smoking. And what kind of generation are you then producing? So we must separate recreational spaces in that method. But we must also use land for agriculture. Our societies must get used to going back to the basics of producing their own fruits, their own vegetables, so that people don't go to bed hungry. But also we must ensure that we use land for monuments and for educational purposes. I think it's very important to do that. We must also address the issues of health system where we don't have clinics, and when we do, they're small, they're not being taken care of, there's no maintenance, there's no medication available, service is bad. So we also need to address those issues. So focus is very important to develop and restore your ward. But while we do that, we ensure that by doing that, you will be automatically inspiring other wards, and you will grow that. By the time we get to provincial and national elections, people will be pointing at the development that you have been doing, because focus then helps you to create broader work.
So, Nkele, do you think that the other political parties are taking independence serious?
No, they are not. They're not taking us serious at all. They think we're just playing, and they forget the fact that we come from those very same communities. We are those numbers who are voting. They forget that. I mean, you are where you are because of the people. You're not where you are because of yourself. So I'm part of those people. So you need to take me very seriously, because if tomorrow I can wake up and say, my people, we're going to make change, they're going to step up and say, yes, we're going to make change.
Do you think this is a new route for democracy in our country?
Most definitely. We need a president who is independent. Come 2024, we need that change.
Most of you speak about 2024. So how do you plan to influence more people in different zones to stand as independents and take it zone by zone or ward by ward?
Currently, what we're doing in Joburg, we have a WhatsApp group where we engage on certain issues, the challenges. So what we must do is just formalize ourselves, even beyond the voting. Whether you win or you don't win, we come together again, plan for 2024, and also go out to encourage people. Medias must also give us a platform so that we're able to also engage other people, so they see that it was not just only something that we're doing towards elections, but it's something we're very passionate about, something we want to do beyond elections.
Do you guys think there's a trend now worldwide for independent candidates to serve or to surface? Do you see any model out there in the world that you guys are following? Anything that you see that's working out there? How did you guys get to the point where you decided independence is the way to go?
In fact, to contest as independent candidate in South Africa for local government elections has always been there. It's just that we lacked political education. We have been deceived for a very long time because political parties has always wanted to make us think that politics are about political parties. But when I started a youth organization called Abacha Force of Change from the FISMAS 4, it was an NPO youth, it's an NPO youth organization. We're doing a lot of political work and voter education work. And we discovered that to stand as an independent candidate has always been there, but we are not taught about it. And that is why we partnered with another organization called Newtown House that was also fighting for independent candidate at provincial and national level. So it's something that has always been there at a local level, but hasn't been practiced or used. And our research tells us that people actually did contest as independent candidates on previous local government elections. And we do have one or two that were actually successful as independent candidates. And because there's no much media coverage, we don't learn much about them. One of the ladies coming from Eastern Cape, and she has a very successful story. So as much as political parties do not take us serious, independent candidate is a serious method and a serious shift in the political arena. And the propaganda that the political parties are trying to make, especially the DA, that you either vote ANC or the DA, is out of desperation. And I think it's poor leadership. And it should actually be rebuked in its totality. Because I'll make an example with Ekurhuleni. You have 112 seats in the council, so 224 in total, where 112 is for ward councillors, 112 it's for PR councillors. So when you vote for independent candidates, you are giving them those seats. Those seats don't get divided, the propaganda that they're passing. For all that ballot paper, for the first ballot paper, the winner is the winner. There's no collision for ward, to be a ward councillor. You can't combine party A and party B for you to get a ward councillor. A ward councillor wins outright.
You in.
You in.
Yeah.
The only division that takes place is on the PR council, and that's where coalition takes place. So people must never be deceived, and people must start then also starting to research on who their candidates are, and they should gun for their candidates with no doubt.
Do they take you serious in your zone, in your area?
I think they do. Especially the DA. And actually, I would like to thank the DA for their puerile and pathetic advertising campaign. Because they have actually created a platform for independence by drawing attention to
Really?
us.
Which campaign is that? Is there something specific that you want to highlight here this on the show this morning?
Yes, some of these radio adverts that, for example, saying, first they trash Herman Mashaba for being responsible for certain things that happened while he was the mayor of Johannesburg as the DA appointee. And then they trash small parties and they trash independence and saying that, they're promoting the swart gevaar, because I'm of a certain age when I remember the politics of the National Party in trying to keep apartheid in place by promoting this fear that white people must have of this black mass. Now this black mass has become the EFF. And so they're telling us voters that we're stupid, because if we don't vote for the DA, then the ANC retains power or the EFF comes in. So what they've done in my ward is that they have selected some of their DA councillors and some of their die-hard white supporters to troll me on social media and say that an independent candidate splits the vote. which is actually misinformation. And I agree, they actually at some point, when this is all over, I think that we should bring the DA to book for spreading misinformation, because there are 2 ballot papers. The one ballot paper for the ward councillor is based on majoritarianism. So in other words, you vote directly. It's the only time in the democracy of South Africa that you vote directly for a person, because it's on the basis of winner takes all, the first past the post is the winner. The second paper is the PR paper, where you vote for a party. So even us as independent candidates have to vote for a party.
Exactly.
And that party goes into council based on proportionate representation. So if the vote is going to be split, it's going to be split there, because there are 55 parties contesting the election.
Surely not in the ward.
Yes.
Tell me, just on that note, I would like to know, you go from house to house, everybody around the table. You speak to your people, you speak to your DJs, and everybody's out there, and they ask the second question, right? We do understand, for the ward, we're going to vote for you. So now they look you in the eye and they say, who must we vote for on the other ballot? Everybody's laughing around the table. Is it like a secret here, or
No.
do you guys want to keep it a secret, or what's the thing? Is it can you guys come out and say, well, I tell my people do that, or are you scared that they were not going to vote for you if you are very deliberate about the bigger party?
It's very tricky. It's a very tricky one, because at the beginning, at a point where you are raising your hand to say I'm available as an independent candidate, then you get approached by political parties, including the emerging political parties who want to start. They come, they say, no, we recognize, I think it's about 6 political parties, if not 7, that have already approached me. But here's the problem, is when a party comes to you and say, we realize that you're an independent, let's work together, and you're excited, come guys, let's work together. At the point you agree, you're thinking the principles are clear and simple. I'm an independent candidate, you tell your voters to vote for me, I tell my voters to vote for you on the second ballot paper. But all of these parties then have an element of arrogance where they want to swallow you into their organization. You lose your autonomy. You lose the fundamental vision of gunning to be an independent, where people now must have direct accountability, direct voting, and direct transparency. So you are undermining that which we are trying to advocate for, to conscientize people of the importance of independence. And it's worse when it's done by small organizations that are supposedly supporting independent candidates, like your independent community, independent citizens movement, who come to the place, they don't have candidates at all, it's their first time, and they find you, instead of saying, because you are there already, let's keep you there and let's work with you side by side. They want to bring another candidate who they will claim is an independent, but it is not, because it's under an organization. And now they want to divide votes. But they don't realize that they're not dividing your votes because you're an independent. They automatically, in a PR ballot paper, they're dividing their vote within the small parties. And that is what small parties are losing. They're losing the fact that they have to unite to defeat the real Goliath. And while they're uniting, they have to support us so that we support them and we deal with the real enemy. And that's what we've lost in these elections.
Do you think, what's the little party's name?
Good.
Good. Now, do you think on another level, Good was falling prey to the same situation? Because she was standing strong as an independent party, not as an independent, but a party. Exactly. And then they swallowed her up into the structure, into the system. And now it seems as if she doesn't have a voice anymore, because I don't know if she will even survive this.
They do that to almost all the parties that start. It's Dilil, who's that lady from NFP? They did that to her. They did that to Azapo president. So they do that all the time. And these leaders must start now analyzing the trend and try to avoid the infiltration.
So what's the independent saying? We're going to stand all by ourselves for a voice for the people, for the ward. That's it.
Most definitely.
Because they see you. And I must just admit, you mentioned something earlier, rather interesting. When people have problems with their billing system, and they have problems with trees, and they have problems with potholes, they want to see a face. They want to go to somebody somewhere, and you will take them literally by the hand and say, okay, I'm going to first make a call. If I can't do it, 1, 2, 3. I have a friend living in a specific area on the West Rand, and it was said that the people in the street phoned for the police. Didn't come after 2 hours. They knocked on his door, and he made one call as a community leader, and the police responded to his call and not to the community's call. It's so unfair, but what can you do about that? But that's where you come in strongly as an independent. You are definitely that voice. Time is running out. I just want to know, are you going to stand in council as a block, meaning as all independents together? So if you agree on the same issue, just as they gear up against you, do you think you will also agree somewhere, just as you mentioned earlier that you were on a WhatsApp group? Is there that possibility there?
Yes, most definitely. That's what we're going to do. We're going to stand together throughout, even beyond elections, because we understand that there's serious issues on the ground that need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
So when we get to council, the very same way you find us on the ground now telling you that enough is enough, that's the enough is enough you're going to be getting in council. We will not change. We will not smile with you. We want service delivery. We want change in our communities, and we want it now.
Wow, I tell you, what a set. I'm going to give each and every one of you an opportunity to look into that camera there where Clayton is behind. You look into that camera. I give you 2 minutes. You tell the people why they should vote for you. Be strong. You can use this as a clip on your own. You can send it around. This is the time now to shine as an independent. I must just admit, with all my interviews, I gain such great respect for independence. You guys are so strong. You start believing in something, and you want to change the status quo. Exactly. You want to rewrite the books in South Africa. As you mentioned earlier, we are just ill-equipped. It's just that we don't know. Speak to your people in your ward.
We are humbled. You are receiving 2 ballot papers. For the first time, you will see a human being in the ballot paper. Vote for an independent candidate in that ballot paper. On the second ballot paper, go for a new small party and will unite in the council. Remember that your vote is your right, our forefathers fight for. Your vote is your voice, and your voice should be for change, of course. And your vote is your faith, for faith is the substance of things hoped for. And after voting, you should be able to see everything that you have been hoping for into a realization. So it's your right, it's your voice, it's your faith. So vote for change, vote for a young person to restore and rebuild our society. Come on.
Wow. I tell you, I'm so excited about the young people. I mean, you're not that old, but we can just salute them. What do you say? We can just salute them. I would love you to look into that lens there and just tell your ward why they should believe in you and what will you do for them.
Thank you. So I'm asking the residents of Ward 118 to understand that we all have the same problems. So whether you live in Jumper's informal settlement or whether you live in a beautiful house on the ridge of Bruma, our issues are the same. We all want to have a clean suburb. We all want to have a safe suburb. And we all want to live in a home that we are proud to call our home. So what will I do as a person? As a person, I will ensure that we have effective service delivery. I will ensure that there is by-law enforcement by the appropriate agencies. And we will unite and be activists to address the infrastructure problems that we have, because the stronger the community, the safer, the cleaner, the more beautiful our community. So on your 1 ballot paper, you need to vote for a person, the person who has proven track record in getting things done. On the 2nd ballot paper, choose your party wisely. Have a look at which party has actually provided a plan of action for the city of Johannesburg. Not empty promises, not hot stuff. Vote for the party that will actually support the improvement of our city. And at the end of the day, remember that you need to go and vote. I'm urging and asking people, no matter which ward you are in, to vote, because people died for our freedom and for our democracy. And the local government elections is our chance to show the current parties that dominate politics that we want change. Thank you so much.
Change is the key here from everybody here. Nkele, what's your take for your community there? Just tell them where you stand. You're so young and vibrant. You smile and you're ready to bite on that piece there in council and just put them on their place. I can just see you with that lady and say, no, you're not going to mess with Galedzana. Yeah.
Most definitely.
You go for it. Look into that camera and tell your viewers exactly what to expect.
I'd like to say that history leaves no blank page. When I say history leaves no blank page, I mean that what you do in 2021 on the 1st of November will reflect in the years that come. So make sure that you make that X, what 75, on a person who will be able to change what has been done for 27 years. You know where you live. You know the water that runs through the streets and creates potholes. You can't even buy a car because you know that once you buy that car and you travel on the very same streets, your car, the bump hits through those potholes, and then you need to go back again and fix that very same car. With which money? Now, I am coming with change that will be able for you to see that indeed we've gotten that change and we've got the power within our hands. They say to us that your vote is your voice, but for 27 years, that voice has been silent. Now, 2021, I'm giving you a chance to have that voice to be heard by those very same political parties that said, we will give you this and we will give you this. But today, you have nothing at your hand. Thank you.
To everybody out there, this was your inside show, and we can really applaud everybody in the studio here, and there from the producer's side, everybody's clapping hands there. It's like, man, I'm so glad for this platform. I learned such a lot from independence, and as you mentioned earlier, we were just ill-equipped. And it was very convenient for us not to know. But we are ready to stand tall. We are ready to let our voice be heard out there. And I think it's a change for the political climate in South Africa. It's clear change. From me to you, thank you so much to our viewers out there. This is the Inside Show with your host, Carl Hendricks. On a Tuesday, we will have a show every day on. And then next week, Tuesday, I'm excited to bring this show back here. I'm excited to see who will come back to the show here as winners of the awards. Hey, I think somehow you guys will make it through there. You're strong and you did all the groundwork and you just have to sit back. You should stop campaigning now. I think it's 48 hours. Is it 48 hours before election? 12.
No,
Yeah.
well, actually, it's
I have it.
The 31st. On the 31st at 12 p.m.
Yeah,
PM.
so there's still time now. So you can literally campaign up to Friday.
It's
And
actually
then
Sunday.
No, Sunday night.
I thought they said Friday.
No, you can campaign up to Friday. Election starts on Saturday. You're not allowed to campaign during elections.
Yeah.
So we're voting on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So,
And
well, from me to you, this is the Inside Show, and a warm thank you and a big thumbs up and good luck to everybody out there that's independence and for all the political parties. You take care. You have a wonderful Tuesday. From me to you, mwah, take care. God bless you and have a super Tuesday. All the best. Good morning, everybody. It is so good to have you here with me.
Imagine if you have your vision as the car with the right team.
Imagine how quick that vision will come into the footsteps. Something that was taking 5 years takes 3 months. This morning is all about the leadership and influence.